A lot of the biggest struggles, I think, with a lot of people that might kind of feel the same way that we do is controlling and communicating emotions, sensory processing, delays and trying to understand what their needs are. We were, I want to say, quote unquote, observing him with friends, observing him with our friends' kids. And we were just like, he's a little much. He's got a lot of energy, and you go to pediatrician appointments and you go to doctors and they were like, he's just a boy with a lot of energy. And you get to a point where you're like, yeah, but we're just not settling down. At a very young age, we noticed some signs that we were unsure of. It was like walking on eggshells for an extremely long period of time. And I'm like, when is this ever going to get better? And we're like, the older he gets, it'll get better. And it never did. It got worse to a point of, to our next topic is medication. I wasn't in a place to homeschool him, nor did I think that that was a good fit for him. So what do you do that you felt like you needed a quick fix? And we felt like medication was going to be our magical pill, right? As you say, something like that. Yeah. So I felt like he was like dying inside, and then we were dying inside because, at 5 years old, you would think that he can tell us something, but he couldn't. I felt like he was nonverbal, even though he was verbal. Lots of, I would say, my husband and I would, there's arguments with us as parents because now one parent's blaming the other parent. Your marriage starts to go when you're just constantly feeling like both of you are to blame. Losing friends, family thinking that like, well, why is he always doing this and why is he always doing that? Why don't you guys try this? Why don't you guys try that? And I'm like, don't you think that we're doing everything that we can? We started with the ADHD medication for a couple of weeks, I think up to 2 months. And then they said, okay, let's start the anxiety medication. Donna, when I tell you that, we did that for 2 years, 2.5 years. We rode that roller coaster of medication. And I tell you that I can't believe we did it for that long because we're waiting for that right amount of dose. We're waiting for that calmness in him. We're waiting for him to be happy. And he became very sad, depressed. Our happy baby was gone. He pretty much overdosed on the medication, ended up having to call 911, was admitted into Lurie's Children's Hospital for high levels of, like, his hormone level was so high. They didn't have to pump him of anything like that, but he did have an IV for a while. And we were like, what's happening? I don't understand. I said, I don't know what's doing this to him, but I'm done. We are no longer being on medication, but I know 100% that I can't just take him off. I need to know how I wean him off these medications and how do we move on. My husband and I were talking about this and we felt like we were all in. I think some of the things that I, pointed out was, is it too good to be true? How did this woman change their lives? How could this work? Are we going to fail again? Possibility of failure as a parent to put him through another trial of things, changing foods, diet, exercise, supplements, vitamins, all of those things. How long is this all going to take? Are we down this road for another 2 years and then we're not going to see improvement? I would say like we were able to like talk at the dinner table and he was actually like talking with us. We just started noticing like who he was as a person. We really didn't know him before meds. Like he started meds at 5. So now it's like a 7, 8-year-old and we were like, oh my God, who is this kid again? We're not done with the program yet. We still got a ways to go. We're still going to continue because not every day is going to be a perfect day and we're still living and thriving with ADHD. So that's what we just kept telling ourselves. He went to school, and when I checked on him, I messaged his teacher and I said, we had a little bit of a struggle this morning. Let me know how he's doing. And she says he walked in and he said he wasn't having a great morning, and he asked to go to the calming room for a little while. That to me is like powerful beyond means. So he does communicate quite well how he's feeling. Does that mean that those emotions and impulsivities don't come out? Because they do. But I feel like he's got a better control, because nobody's perfect. And like I said, and I'll continue to say, that he is thriving with his ADHD. So he does have ADHD, and we're never going to change him, and I don't want to change him. But now I feel like we know who he is. We went on our first big family vacation to Disney. Overwhelming, overpopulated place that I hadn't been to in over 20 years. He did really great. Now, was he tired and overwhelmed? Yes, but he was able to tell us, I'm hungry, I need a break. And he still has his moments, but I would say nothing compares to where we were. They've been asking to go to Disney for probably 3 years. And I was like, there's no way. Yeah. Like, he's going to be running out of the lines, and how am I going to like keep him in a stroller? Like, what am I going to do? Strap him down? Like, this sounds like a parent's worst nightmare, even for a child that doesn't struggle with some of these things. So regardless of his age, he's 9, but let's just say intellectually probably 7, but he did well. And, there were times he struggled, but I felt like he was able to communicate that. And I would have never thought that we could do that until the kids were older, and that they can kind of handle it on their own and be more independent. So it was really nice and that was for my 40th birthday. We decided to surprise them and go. So it was such an experience for them. And I'm glad that we were able to start doing these vacations. And I know you've been going on some vacations yourself, and it is nice to be able to go and, put some of those worries away. Nothing is ever going to be easy, and if it was, everybody would do it. But if you're willing to put in the work, I would say take the first step and to try and to give it 100%. Because like I said, whatever you give, you're going to give back. And maybe not every program is the right program for you, but for us, this wasn't a diet change. This wasn't like, I'm going to alleviate these 3 foods and I'm going to be fine. There's so much more to it, and there's so much more to the program that we had no idea. That was extremely eye-opening. For me, it was, don't give up, just whatever. If it's not working, then you have to change it, because if it's not working now, it's not going to work. When you accept that this is going to be a lifestyle change and not a temporary fix, you release yourself from being overwhelmed, and you trust that you're doing right by your child. And I would say, put yourself out there to be vulnerable. Share your story and be open. The tip that I would have is just to put yourself out there and allow your child to thrive in whatever it is that they're struggling with.